Today we were with Trey Potts again for the second time. He just won his second tournament in a row. This time he went from the coast of Oregon to a river to the middle of Washington to a reservoir potholes, and he won that event. Congratulations, Trey.
Thank you very much.
Getting closer to the fall transitions, like your time of year to catch more of your fish.
It's hard to say. I do love to do the early fall, late summer fishing, especially for smallmouth. I mean, I grew up chasing them, so it kind of comes naturally. But yeah, I don't know if things are just kind of clicking for me, or if I finally have an understanding on how to read a depth charts. But yeah, I love fall fishing, so it's kind of like my powerhouse. I like it. I like it a lot.
What techniques are you using? Like now, it's getting into that transition.
I'm definitely favoring drop shot a lot more. I'm doing um, a lot more with the jerk bait. It's one of my favorites to go to. So I do quite a bit with that. But if it's not picking up, then I'll switch over pretty quickly. And then top water is another really common one I'll throw, and I'll throw it all day. I'll throw it in the morning. If nothing happens, I'll put it down, and then if it's a slow day, I'll throw it again just to make sure, you know, just to see if it will get a bite. But yeah, top water and jerk baits are really the two new ones that are being thrown in, and then occasionally a swim bait.
Are you like throwing whopper ploppers for top water or frogs, or I know you like the
No, well,
spooks
it
and stuff?
depends on what I'm fishing for. If it's for smallmouth, I'll do popper, but if it's for largemouth, I'll do mostly frog, maybe a buzz bait if I'm feeling a little spicy that day, but mostly frog.
Have you tried those like ducks or anything yet? Like the bat, I guess, is another popular one.
I haven't tried those. You know, in this region, I'm not too confident in the duck. So if it was down south, maybe I'd throw a little bit more, or Midwest, I'd throw it. But
For sure. You caught your big fish, the 18 incher at like it says 759 on the turning export. Did you catch that on top water?
no, I actually caught that on drop shot. I put the top water down really early in that one. I figured if I hadn't had anything in the first 10 minutes, it was time to move on, and threw it for about 10 minutes. Nothing happened, and went immediately into drop shot. Figured that either going to be deep or shallow, and that one was actually about 35 feet of water. He was pretty deep.
Dang. Drop shots. What kind of weights you using? The pencil lead weights or round weight?
I like the teardrops. I tried the pencils. I seem to get hung up a lot more with the pencil, so I do the teardrop, whether it's grass or rocky bottom. It tends for me. It doesn't get hung up as much as the pencil drops.
Right. That makes sense too. I have the same results in mine. I'd rather do the teardrops. Especially when there are these rocks, man. Like, they always say like the pencil is better for the rocks, but I find out the round ones bounce off the rocks better than the pencils do.
No, they don't, and I tend to be able to feel them a lot better with my setup. So I like those quite a bit. And I think they're a lot harder to see too when they're sitting on the bottom. So
Yeah. There's definitely less profile. What kind of plastic are you throwing on it?
whatever I can get them to bite on. Usually my first go to is KVD Dream Shot, and then if they're pretty active on that, I'll switch it until I find something they're not hitting a lot of, and then I'll kind of go back to what I was doing. And but yeah, I'll start with the KVD Dream Shot, and then if that's going well, I'll switch over to a Kitech 2.8 or 3.3. And if that keeps getting hit, then I just keep either getting bigger or more, I guess, minnow shaped, you could say, until I get the fish that I'm more targeting. Seems to chase the small
Makes
ones
sense.
away when you get bigger and more lifelike.
Yeah, those little ones will tear a bait up too, man. Start getting in the
Yes, they
pocket.
will. They're fun to catch, but when you're in a time crunch, you got to weed them out pretty quickly.
Had you fished Banks Lake before this event?
I believe I did a couple years ago. I know I pre-fished it for a tournament a couple years ago, but I don't remember if I was actually in that one or not. So I had a little bit. The only thing I knew about Banks Lake is where it wasn't going to launch, and that was based off of that pre-fishing.
Did you end up launching more north toward Electric City or down south?
I went north towards Electric City. Osborne Bay is where I launched, and then I went straight across to the other side of the bank.
Was it pretty
Yeah,
busy out
I was
there?
pretty
I mean,
close
last
to.
time I was there, man, it was crazy busy.
It wasn't too busy for pleasure boaters up on the upper end, anyways, where I was. I mean, there were a couple that came through, but no one really hung out. They all kind of went down to the southern part of the lake.
Was there like a piece of structure that was working more than other or covered?
Uh, Structure it is mostly the weed line. I went out, I found a point, and it was 15 feet deep, but the grass was 5 feet high. So my graph kept reading 10, 15, bouncing around. And I told myself I'm just going to keep going until that grass either goes away and I find the line, or it's within manageable. Uh, I can fish through it. And I finally got out to, I think it was about 30 feet, and the grass was still 2 or 3 feet tall. And it's like, well, let's try it. I doubt something will bite it. And then about 5 minutes later, that 18-inch bit it. I was like, okay, this might be something to
Dang.
keep on. So I basically hung out in the middle on this grass lines all day.
Really? All day? You're good with that? Is that like your style fishing? You can stay put if the fish are biting?
Yeah, if they're biting out that deep, I can stay on that. I can stay out and do the offshore fishing. It's really hard to do it without having live scope. So I really had to read my graph and understand what was going on down there. And it felt like there were a few times it felt like I was live scoping them. I could see it. I could see them on the graph coming into the screen, and then their, what do you call them? Their arches will dart straight down to the bottom. I was like, okay, I think he's coming for my bait. Get ready. And a few seconds later, there'd be a fish on the end of it. So it felt like I was live scoping
Video
them, but
game
I
fishing, dude.
wasn't. I was just following what my graph said and listening to it. That was the big
Very cool.
takeaway from that one.
Is that something you're getting more comfortable with as the season went on too, is your electronics?
Yeah, I've always been relatively comfortable with them, but when I'm out that deep, it took a while to actually understand what I was reading, from knowing where the drop off is to knowing where uh, the grass line or the rock or the different rock come into shape. So I Banks Lake did a really good job at helping me figure that out relatively quickly. I didn't really have a choice to figure it out, but it helped quite a bit being able to physically see the difference.
When I fished Banks Lake in 2019, like my graph, like I fished in a bunch of other lakes prior to that, and like they're all flat bottoms, and like I never really got to use my electronics what they're used for. And I felt like Banks Lake was the first place that had all the structures and covers that existed that they could teach you about. Like it had road beds and rocks and grass and cliff sides, even deep ledges. It was kind of neat.
Yeah, and that was the case with me too. I did a lot of my well, I did all of my research on looking at depth charts and Google Earth a couple weeks prior, coming leading into it. So I already had a mental picture of where I was going and and at least what the contours looked like. But being actually able to see it on the graph and see how sharp that drop off that I saw on Navionics it was really helpful to pick it apart.
Was it pretty accurate? Like the Navionics?
It was for this lake because it doesn't really lower and rise a lot, so it was from what I remember looking at to what I was seeing actually out there. It was relatively accurate. Yeah, it was. I was able to look at one spot and go, "Hey, that was my next target." There's a drop off there that goes from 30 feet to 10 feet relatively quickly. And when I went to actually look at it, sure enough, the drop off was there, further out than I expected it to be, but it was there.
It's always good, man, when the plan and everything, like, lines up like that. There's a lot of lakes that aren't the same on avionics, I feel like.
No, there's
The Planet
not,
Three,
and
because the
yeah,
water
there's
levels always change because the reservoirs.
well, then and the next reservoir coming up is going to be that way, so it's going to be interesting to see it. I mean, I already know what I'm going into, but it's going to be interesting to see how different it's going to be.
It's gonna yeah, fall time down there is gonna be interesting for sure. Have you fished Idaho a lot?
I haven't this year. I used to in the past. I mean, well, I did the Idaho tournaments, but I haven't fun fished the Idaho area this year. So
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting. And you just came back from the Willamette again too, right? Like another Oregon River, you just fished that
I
this last
did.
weekend?
Yeah,
Dude,
those yeah the back-to-back weekends. I've been busy.
that's for sure, man. Are you, trying to get that are you in for that prize? What they got that the long distance prize that Marvin has? I don't remember what it's
Yeah,
for.
the
Travel something?
road warrior for the
Road War
Snake River
yeah.
Lockers trailer. Yeah, I'm in it, and that's why I did the Willamette one, was just to get another entry. I didn't expect to do that good. I mean, I wanted to, but yeah, that one just kind of worked out the way it did, and I only did that one for the entry.
Your electronics help you in that one too? Like, would you find, grass and like, what the Willamette's
They,
mostly ledges or something, right? From what I've
yeah,
understood.
I was on deep ledges, uh, well, for about half the day. It took me a while to figure out where the fish were biting at. Um, the electronics didn't really start helping until about middle of the afternoon, mostly because I wasn't really listening to them. I had a plan that I developed coming into it that I really wanted to try and stay with. And every now and then the graph and the plan would line up, but it took me till mid afternoon to realize that the plan I had needed to disappear quickly to figure out where the fish were at.
So the readjustment worked out. You know what? Finishing 5th place. I remember the midday. You were one fish deep, to like 15
Yeah,
inches. You
it
managed
was a
to get
very
fifth.
patient day that day. I had a lot of opportunities to place better. I missed three really good ones that could have changed the outcome of that one, but I fished it hard. I fished it to the best that I could, and I was pretty satisfied with finishing in fifth.
It was a crazy comeback from what I saw. That is awesome.
I didn't. I was When I saw my final numbers, I was expecting to maybe hit top 10. Maybe top 10 would be nice.
That was 'cause I guess that was like a weird one because a lot of people did pretty good or really good, and then some people just didn't do well at all. And then I like this. Usually it's one way or the other. It's kind of even out there on the board.
Yeah, that
No,
reservoir or that river was the same one we fished it in the classic, and uh, I knew the only thing I learned from the classic was where I wasn't going to launch, and I went to the same spot I did on day two of the classic where another angler was, and we launched at the exact same spot for this tournament, and he goes, "If we go in the same spots?" Like, well, if I beat you this time, I'm going to your spot where you beat me last year. We ended up doing
it's
like
always a
almost the
safe
exact same
plan.
thing we both did last year. Oh yeah, it was it was a lot
That's
of
funny.
fun. I wouldn't do anything differently on that tournament.
How was the current out there?
It was a lot calmer than it was last year. I was actually able to make.
Oh,
I know it was calmer because I was able to come back into the boat launch at a relatively good speed with that gnar. Last year with that gnar, I was only doing like one and a half coming back. It was brutal.
wow. So I know that Marvin had like shut down one of the boat launches. I was curious of like what happened, like if the current was getting bad or
I believe in that boat
just
launch it
safety thing.
was. I was relatively close to that launch. I didn't go quite that far down, but yeah, where I was at with the current, it wasn't too terrible.
Do you think the way that you finished these last well 3 events now, you think you've got a little more confidence going into Door Shack now? You ready for it?
I'm ready for it. Yeah, I don't want to say I'm pretty confident. You know, I like to go in hopeful, but I'm 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 pretty hopeful that it's going to be a good event. It's going to be interesting.
When do you plan on heading out that way? I know you don't pre-fish.
I will be there. I'll be there I actually be there Wednesday night on the 9th and be there for the next 4 days up to that tournament. So don't think I'll pre-fish it, but I'm definitely at least gonna get on the water and take a look at it and see what I need to change or what needs to be adjusted for my plan of attack.
For sure. Some giants, and it's gonna be interesting, I think. I guess it depends on how the
Yeah,
weather holds out. I don't
it's
know how
gonna be
it's
a
gonna
fun one.
be, but I know temperatures are dropping where we are.
I, it's probably gonna be cold and windy. Is gonna be my guess. I haven't looked that far into the forecast, but if I know the area, it's gonna be cold and windy, at least in the mornings.
Right. It's gonna be fun though. It's gonna be good.
It is. There's a lot of good people that are gonna be at this event, so it's gonna be a powerhouse. It's gonna be fun.
For sure. Uh, for sure. Do
Yeah,
you throw big
it's
swim baits
yeah.
around?
I don't. I'm actually this uh the classic will probably be the first event where I throw an actual glide bait. So we'll see. We'll see
Really?
if I put that rod in my hand, but and based on my research, I'm definitely gonna be throwing the glide bait quite a bit.
So you have kind of a plan set up that you already know kind of where you're gonna go and
Yep.
what kind of
Yeah,
cover you're gonna fish
it's
for.
well, the cover's gonna change. If I remember that reservoir right, it's gonna be a lot different than it's gonna be a lot more sandy bottom than it will be big rocks and stumps like it is early. So yeah, I got some kind of a plan of attack, and we'll see. I'll probably go out in the water Thursday and see if that's the plan I want to go with, or if I want to do a change. But
Very cool. You Airbnb in it or trucking it?
no, my family actually has property outside of Orfino, so we'll be staying. I'll be staying there, and another angler will be staying there. Their property is right in the middle of all the boat launches, so
Cool. That's lucky, huh?
yeah, it's gonna be. I'll actually be comfortable for a tournament, which might be good or it might be bad. We'll see how it plays out.
Right. Don't oversleep, man. It's gonna be so crazy. It's already happening. I can't believe the season's already over almost.
I know it went by quick this year.
And you fished a lot.
Yeah, I did. I wish I would have done a couple more tournaments so I can be ahead in the drawing for the uh, trailer giveaway. But kind of kicking myself for not doing the ones that I told myself I was going to do and decided last minute not to go. But it is what it is. We'll see how it plays out.
It only takes one, man. You only need to win one drawing.
That's what a few anglers and I were talking about. You know, I'm going to win it, and I've only got one entry in it. It's like, yeah, I know. I'm ready for that defeat.
Prepared for it all, man.
Yeah.
What do you do after fishing season? You hunt? You a hunter?
Um, I try to be. I do a lot of bird hunting. We have salmon season going on now, so once bass is officially done, I'll be more doing the salmon stuff and waiting for bird season to come in and do a lot of pheasant hunting and stuff like that, and get ready for the next season.
It comes quick too. April, May, April. I think
I
yours
believe
April.
April is our opener. May is our first tournament, but we'll see. There's going
I'm
to be
still waiting for the first
a lot
person
of
that's
upcoming
smarter when the
changes, so we'll see.
2025 schedule comes out.
Yeah, yeah. I'm hoping for a little less driving, but I've always hoped that, and it doesn't plan out. So
The state's so big, man. It's hard to avoid to travel.
it is, and unfortunately, being in the smaller part of Eastern Washington, down that bottom corner, there's not a lot of places to hold a tournament that aren't at least
Oh.
2.5 hours away.
What was your shortest drive this year?
I think it was Banks. Well, no, the Wallula tournament. The where the three states went against each other there in Tri Cities on the Columbia. That was about 45-minute
Okay.
drive. That was the shortest one.
Did you do that one? You did that one. And did you do the no limit as well?
Yeah, I did that one and the no limit. I did a lot better in the league tournament than I did the no limit. My spot was kind of shot. I wish I had known that beforehand, but so it happens you don't pre-fish. You don't see what the water looks like beforehand, and sometimes it comes back and bites you. Just gotta learn to adapt on it.
It's a gamble.
It's a big gamble, but it works out for me most of the time.
So you and Patrick Kelly actually tied for first place, but you got the lead over by a quarter of an inch. That's kind of crazy too.
Yeah, I didn't know it was that big of a or that small of a difference until I actually looked back at the standings and make my Facebook post to see the breakdown. I was like, all right, well, how big was the next big fish? And yeah, I had no idea he was by a quarter of an inch on big fish too.
That was a crazy finish, man.
That kind of made it a little more special on that, knowing that it came down pretty much to the last quarter inch it could possibly come down to.
That's wild.
I don't know what time he caught his 17 and a quarter, but if it had been an 18, it would have been really interesting to see who came
He
out on
caught
that
his at
catching the first big fish.
9:31,
Yeah. All right. So
and
I
you
think
caught
mine, yeah,
yours
mine
at like
came.
at 7:59. That's pretty close too.
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
It's
That was a really tough
been the
event. That
year
was a
twice.
great way to end the year, though. I mean, you can't ask for an event to be any closer than that.
Yeah, there's a lot of limits caught too. That must have been a good one. Banks Lake's like my favorite lake in the state. I have a good time every time I go out there.
It's my favorite now. It wasn't beforehand, but like I said, I always fished the south side of the lake, so I knew to avoid that section and try something new, even though I was more familiar down with the southern part of it.
When I fished it in 2019, I had to use a jig, like a 3/4 ounce jig, and it had to hit the rock wall and bounce in the water. They wouldn't touch it. If I just threw it near the ledge or the rock, it wouldn't bite it. It had to hit it first and then fall in. It was the craziest thing.
You know, I've seen a few fish like that in the snake act the same way with those rock cliffs. You have to pretty much bounce it off the. Maybe the thing is something falling off the cliff, but yeah, it has to bounce off that cliff, and they'll get pretty good bites that way.
So weird, man. I found it by accident. You got any sponsors or anything?
What's that?
Teams? Are you any on sponsorships or teams or anything?
I'm with Jackson Kayak actually, and they're my only
Oh,
one
cool.
that I have. So yeah, it's been fun being with them. It's fun. It's always fun taking the NAR out and showing it off down the road and on the water, especially on at first first launch when we're all together. It's fun to be, beat out and be one of the first ones out in front of everyone, leading the pack down. Always kind of get a chuckle on it.
That is funny because everyone else is what, like Hobies and natives and those big boats.
Yeah, and this is about. I mean, it's 13.9, so it's also a big boat. It's a fast boat. It's fun to
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's fun to take it out on the water. It gets a lot of attention. So yeah, I have fun representing Jackson. Have fun representing the NAR.
Cool. Have you been doing it for a while with
Uh,
Jackson?
this this is my second year with Jackson, so I'm still
Cool.
fairly new into it. Kind of learning the ropes and uh, yeah, I want to say getting better, but doing more to help them. But no, I'm having fun. I'm having
Sure.
fun with Jackson. I've been with them for 2 years, so uh, it's a big learning curve. I'm learning a lot from the people on the Jackson team and uh, learning how to be a better representer every time I go out.
So they're digging the results, right?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I imagine so. It's yeah, they're happy with it. They like the
Very
content that
cool.
I put out, even though I haven't done a lot of that. It's hard to uh, separate the content and fishing. I get so driven and focused on the fishing that I forget to take that picture or that reel and release the fish. Next thing I know, I was like, oh, that would have been a perfect picture fish, or that would have been a perfect fish to make a video on. And well, do it with the next one, and then I forget the next way. It's a never ending battle.
Right. That's true, man. It is multiple steps. There's you got like separated fishing and videography, or whatever you want to call it, man.
Yeah,
What do you like
I
social
got to do a lot
media?
more fun fishing. I tend to do it more when I'm fun fishing, but I get too competitive in a tournament to do both at the same time.
Right. Just get a GoPro and a battery, dude. Just film everything and then take pictures of it later, like still fresh shots.
Yeah, I got to do
I think
that.
that's
It would
pretty
be a
cool.
lot easier to do it that way.
Yeah, that was an awesome
Yeah,
season though.
well,
2 wins. Made it to the classic.
two
Traveled a lot,
wins,
learned a lot.
two.
Awesome.
Yeah, it definitely helped boost the confidence. Never give up. That showed with this one. Those first three events kind of knocked me down a little bit, and it's like, well, something's got to change. Change it yourself and make it happen. And the season progressed. It slowly built up to be something better. Definitely blew my goals out of the water for this year's, but it set new ones for next year, so it's gonna be fun.
Sure. What do you got going on next year, you think, goal wise?
I think I want to go for three in a row next year. Actually, I know I'm going to try and go for three in a row next year, whether it be all Washington or between the states. I'm going to probably do a lot more tournaments and try and hit that goal.
That's an
It'll be
aggressive
fun to
goal.
do
That's
it.
cool, man.
Well, I got close. I
You
mean,
did.
you get close once, you can get close again.
Super
It's going to be
cool.
a
It's
lot
not
of
even
work.
surprising anymore. I was like, oh, he won. That no pre-fish is really paying off, dude.
Yeah, for some reason, me and not pre-fishing works out, and I almost want to do it for the classic, but at the same time, it's like, oh, let's not. It's too late to do it now. I haven't done it all year. Why do it? Why start now?
Is it like a superstition thing at this point?
It is. I have quite a few superstitions need to that I need to do before a tournament, or I'm just thrown off the entire day. Yeah,
What do you
I
got?
have quite a few superstitions that.
That's funny. Yeah, good luck, man. Door Shack's gonna be cool. It's gonna be interesting to see
Thanks.
for
Yeah,
sure.
it's gonna be fun. I look forward to it. It's coming up quick too, so I got to do a lot more research. Make sure I have my spots memorized and know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, man. It's gonna yeah, and everyone there knows how to fish too. Like, man, it's gonna be so cool. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
everyone in this
excited for it.
tournament
I don't
knows
even
what they're
fish very
doing. Well, it's going to be a no service one again, so it's going to be fun. It's going to come down to
oh,
knowing when it happens, or knowing as the. It's going to come down to the end of the tournament pretty much to know what had happened, especially for where I'm going to be. I won't have service, so
that's good to
it's
know.
going to be a wild event. Standings are going to bounce around a lot.
Man. I've heard so many different stories about that place too. The fish are constantly moving and schooling up and not, and some are just hanging
Yeah,
out in points all day. It's gonna be neat.
yeah, it's going to be fun. It's I haven't fished this part of the door shack this late in the year before, so but I know the reservoir pretty well, and I don't think the fish attitudes change quite from the upper part to the lower part. So I'm not
How
too
far is the drive
too
to Door
too
Shack?
worried about it. From my house, it's probably about 3.5 hours. So about the average distance to a normal tournament.
It's not really out of the way for you. I
Yeah.
mean, it is, but it isn't. Cool. Uh, yeah, we'll definitely talk again this off season before the season comes out. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I look forward to coming back on. It'll be a lot of fun.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's gonna do it for this one for sure. I keep saying for sure. I don't know why I keep doing that.
We all have our little quirks that we say a lot.
It's true. That is true. All right. I think that's all I got. You got anything you want to add?
And not too much. Thank you for having me on again. It's
Oh,
always
thanks
fun
for being
coming
on
on
for sure.
and talking about these events.
Yeah, I like hearing about it.